The usual warning about ChatGPT is that it can make errors. But I want to make a different argument today. Even when your writing is accurate, in other words, ChatGPT is not making any errors, it can still hurt you in ways not because your idea is bad, because the audience will start devaluating you. Let me start with a simple experiment from my own work. What I did was, I took a paper that I'm working on, then I asked the LLM to summarize the paper into a 150 word abstract. Now, this is my own work, and I know that AI didn't make any errors. And then I also wrote my own abstract. The ideas were the same, the source material were the same. The only thing that was different was that one abstract was written by AI and one abstract was written by myself. And then I tested both the abstracts in what is a model quite used often now to test AI writing, Pangram. You can actually open a free account, which I did there, and tested these two abstracts. What I found was that my own abstract was detected as fully human written, but the LLM generated abstract was detected as fully AI written. That is what actually I did. So the first thing to ask here is, what is happening here? The abstract was not wrong. LLMs are often criticized because they hallucinate. And I checked the AI generated abstract myself. It was 100% accurate. So this was not simply a case that AI is making things up. It is making errors. It's not a quality argument. The other argument that's often made is that AI writing can actually reduce the reading ease score. So there is a score called Flesch reading ease score. I checked that too. Now, what happened was that the AI generated abstract had a lower readability score. So yes, there was some difference, but the difference was not large enough to explain the full problem. That means that the issue is more subtle. Readers are not judging the text, they are judging the person behind it. They are asking, did that person actually think this through? Is it their own expertise and judgment? And this is becoming an issue because AI writing has started to become recognizable. It's very visible on LinkedIn. Many people may have good ideas, but when they use LLM to polish those ideas, then the posts are starting to sound similar. People are starting to recognize this style, and once they do start to recognize this style, the writing stops helping you. Now, strategic distinctiveness theory says to gain attention, you need to be different from your competitors. At first, LLMs gave this strategic edge to you by making your ideas sound polished. But when everyone is sounding polished now, it stops being an edge. And when it becomes recognizable with models such as pangrams, which can actually tell you how much percentage of this was written with AI, with a reasonable confidence level and low false positive rates, that advantage can now turn into a reputation cost. This is the professional risk. You may have done the thinking, but if the writing is sounding like AI, people will assume that you did not do the work or did less of the work and AI did the heavy lifting. They may see the writing as inflated, inauthentic, and they will discount your competence. And this will become especially serious in high-stakes settings. For example, Paul Graham, who is the founder of Y Combinator, a very well-known startup accelerator, gets a lot of emails from entrepreneurs all the time. They are often early-stage founders who are using these emails to reach out to Paul Graham to pitch their ideas. They don't even have a product evidence yet. So they are using language to convey their ideas. And Paul Graham says that he is getting too many emails now that are sounding too confident. In his own words, he's getting these emails that are hard-hitting journalistic style, which he can tell are coming from AI. And because of that, he's not likely to respond. He says it feels he's being lied to. The same pattern is also appearing in academic publishing. A top management journal organization, Science, used Pangram, the model I showed you earlier, to examine AI writing in their submissions. Now, what they found was submissions have gone up substantially since the introduction of ChatGPT, almost to the level of 42%. They also found that the articles that were written with high levels of AI use are much likely to be rejected. What's happening here is, even though that the journal says they're not using AI to screen these, there is still a problem. And the problem is that the gatekeepers are still human. The technology has changed, but the gatekeepers still remain human, and they decide who gets the attention, who gets the funding, who gets published, who gets hired, and they are often very conservative. They are especially cautious with new technologies because that disrupt the existing hierarchies and power structures. So even when AI is accurate, it can still trigger their resistance. This is a very important point to consider. AI creates uncertainty around authorship because of the black box nature of the technology, and I've discussed this in another video. It becomes an attribution problem. If the final text sounds like AI, the reader may not know how much credit to give to you. And that uncertainty can hurt you, not because the text is wrong, but because your contribution becomes harder to recognize. And this is especially a problem for non-native English speakers. For people like me, we may have good ideas. We may use LLM to polish our English. That used to be actually the promise of AI, that people who don't have certain skills, that will be democratized. But what has happened is that that edge is gone. Polished English now triggers alarm bells. Gatekeepers think that the work is heavily AI assisted, and then they devalue the idea. So paradoxically, the people who need language support the most may also be punished the most for using it. That brings me to a practical takeaway. Use AI, but be careful when the text is itself being used to judge you. A journal abstract, an email to Paul Graham if you are a founder, a job application, a LinkedIn post, a proposal for a grant. In these cases, your writing is not just communication, it is evidence of your thinking. And if you are outsourcing your voice to AI, that may weaken the signal. So the real way to stand out now is actually to sound more human. It is very different from 2 years ago, where you would use AI to polish your text and people would be okay. That advantage is now gone. The risk is not because that AI is hallucinating or making errors. That is usually the claim when they are devaluing you, but the real claim is now more about the perception of you as a person, as an author. So especially if English is your second language, be careful. Do not use LLMs to polish away the very signals that make your thinking human. The advantage of using AI to sound more polished is gone. The advantage is to sound more human. Thank you for your attention and joining me on Devil Wears Data.